Yeah, ServyOa really getting very close to 200 full max supply right now. And you know what that means, JDS? That means it's time to attack because if you
Yeah.
can't get any more units, you better use the ones that you do have.
Tremendous volleys of rockets going down here from the Vikings, managing to take out one of the Colossus, and the other Colossus escaping with 52 life. I think just two or three Vikings picked off the ranks there and moved back to that Colossus would have been able to take it down, but ServyOa didn't want to take the risk, and now another drop. ServyOa dropping all game here. No more Hellions for him, though. It's Marines going into these ranks of workers, but not much going down here on this expansion. Socke able to move his workers away very, very effectively, and these Marines kind of just lollygagging about, taking another coffee break.
Oh my god, did you see that medevac?
A lot of coffee
Just
breaks going
barely
on here.
escaped with 6 hit points. And yeah, these Marines are going to be slaughtered, unfortunately. You know, ServyOa has a strong habit of, dropping units in the enemy base and then leaving them behind for dead. You know, I guess all's fair in war, right? It is.
Absolutely, and now these Vikings are going to go to town, or try to go to town on these carriers, but the storms are going to put them under pressure. And like we said, the storms becoming much more effective for Socke now that these Vikings are all clustered up like this, and the storms going to town. These Vikings just can't handle the amount of storms. One of the carriers goes down, but two of the carriers managed to survive, and that was a very, very good exchange for Socke. He's able to keep those carrier ranks going, and the storms putting the Vikings under tremendous amounts of pressure.
Yeah, well, Socke did lose 3 carriers in that exchange. He started with 5, ended with 2, and the Storm's doing a good job of keeping those Vikings back. But I'd say that was an even exchange at best for Socke.
Yeah, I mean, just the Vikings are just so many of them are able to do so much damage in these little rocket clusters, and he's just got to make sure to kind of avoid as much storm damage as he can. I mean, I know that it's difficult to avoid, and I wish that he had maybe a few SCVs over here auto repairing these Vikings, because they could really do a lot more damage.
Those SCVs are very badly needed. Those Vikings are going to run away, but they could be put to use if they were properly repaired. And I don't think that Servy is on the task. He's too busy building the rest of his army, too busy doing other things with his SCVs and his buildings.
Yeah, a lot of micro diversions right now for both of these players, trying to make sure that the minerals that they can ascertain from their expansions is enough to keep up with the opposing player. Just a few SCVs kind of just clumped up under these Vikings in the downtimes would have really just shored up their health, and they would not be so close to death as they are now. And it's going to put a lot of pressure on ServyOa to move these Vikings out. I think he's going to be much more apprehensive to move them out against the carriers as he was a few minutes ago.
Yeah, Socke actually thinning out his ranks of stalkers. It's down to 4 now, as far as I can see. There may be a couple. Yeah, there's 3 more elsewhere on the board. I'm just looking at Socke's main force, and he's moving to High Templar. A lot of High Templar out there, and those do a great job against Vikings, as we've seen in the last couple minutes. And the stalkers maybe aren't as useful as they once were earlier on.
High Templar seems slightly diverted by the ground army for the Vikings, but luckily Socke is up to the task of the strong micro needed for this battle, turning his High Templars around and storming the Viking ranks, and the Vikings are all but destroyed. And these Marines are going to try to take down the carriers as the Archons are morphing. They're going to get a few free shots on the carriers. The carriers able to move over that high ground and shield themselves from the Marines. And now that the Archons are fully functional, they're going to go to town on these Terran units, and the ranks fully decimated there for ServyOa.
Yeah. ServyOa is still ahead in army, 124 to 102, but I don't know what it is, JDS. It seems that Socke has control of the game right now. Do you think ServyOa maybe should have some battle cruisers in there to compete with these carriers, or what?
Yeah, I mean, like we've covered before, when dealing with storms, the ideal unit is obviously the Ghost, but the micro and macro required by both of these players during this game is incredible. And to add the Ghost micro is maybe a little bit too much to ask for ServyOa, but I think that maybe he just went to tanks maybe a little bit too much in excess at this point. I would, like I said, I would have loved to see Marauders much beefier, much more absorbent, and yeah, maybe BCs. BCs are so rare these days that maybe
Are they just too slow or something? Like, what is it about BCs that makes them not a viable option to a lot of
It's
Terran
just
players?
the rules of inoperability in StarCraft. They're too slow, they're too weak, and they're too expensive, and just kind of really not viable in any sort of build at this point in the Terrans. Just rarely, if ever, seen. I mean, I haven't seen BCs used in a tremendously long time, especially in competitive pro games. And
Yeah. I mean, I've noticed looking at carriers that they're quite fast.
yeah,
And that is not the case with battle cruisers.
yeah, carriers are speedy, and battle cruisers would be able to take them out, in even numbers. But battle cruisers are too slow, considering the amount of storms and the amount of archons and the amount of stalkers out on the board. The BCs would just be rendered useless, would die very quickly, and that's a lot of minerals wasted for ServyOa.
Yeah, ServyOa is still ahead in army size, but it really looks like he's not sure what to make, like nothing he's pumping out, and despite the fact he's using more supply, he has more units, he's battling these carriers and he cannot take them down.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
more where that came from.
Socke just using this small complement of units, this elite squad of High Templar carriers, a Colossus, and a couple of Archon, and some Immortals, and they're just absolutely tearing through the Terran ranks at this point. The High Templar were farmed down by a lucky Thor that caught them off guard, but these carriers and this Colossus are pretty much just strolling through here, uncontested.
Yeah, it's worth noting that the Protoss player has full level 3 upgrades on his ground units, and level 2... Where's that? Oh no, that's just 2 interceptors. Oh no, 2 level 2, I suppose, air unit damage upgrade.
Mm-hmm.
So he's really focused on damage. However, ServyOa has level 0. He has no upgrades on his army, and he has a couple attack upgrades on his mechanical units. So I mean, just don't know. Now Servy has actually fallen behind in supply, and that could not be a good sign for him going forward in this game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I said, this elite squad of Protoss units, relatively uncontested for the last 5 or 6 minutes in the game, and ServyOa has absolutely got to be scrambling for the ideas, but there isn't much time for him in this game. I mean, as these expansions get poached, his economy gets sliced, and the ability to reinforce his ranks becomes tantamount to victory, and it just doesn't seem like he can be effective in doing so right now.
Yeah, Socke's army is extremely mobile. Like this, all these forces are rather quick moving, and I just got a comment on the devastating ability of the Protoss with carriers and High Templar to taunt and coax a squadron of Marines to come closer to the carriers, just in time for that storm to be laid down and own them all at once.
Yeah, not to mention the added devastation of the Colossi, and this spelled devastation. This spelled destruction for ServyOa, and it seemed like both of these players could have taken the lead in the game, much like Socke did towards the maybe the 35, 40 minute mark, and where did ServyOa go wrong? Did he depend too largely on siege tanks? I think that was probably the main reason for his downfall. But as we said, does this expose a weakness in Terran's end game air? Are battle cruisers just too not viable enough? And if you allow a Protoss to get to this point in the game where his unit mix is just so devastating, is there nothing Terrans can really do?
Well, you know what? Like I think Servy had half of the equation right. Like I really think that Vikings, or enough Vikings, will take air dominance, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the question is what to put on the ground, and I don't have an answer to that question. I do not know what Terran should be putting on the ground against this elite mix, as you said, for battling Protoss. I think a couple ghosts, as I mentioned before, and I don't know, maybe Marauders or something. I don't know. I really do think that Vikings are the best late game option for Terrans, and that perhaps Servy should have maybe upgraded his ground troops more. But other than that, I think you're spot on saying that too many tanks, and he should have moved away from tanks at some point in the game, and they just did not work out for him.
Yeah, I mean, he did anticipate needing a tremendous amount of Vikings. He did have a tremendously powerful, mobile, quick clump of Vikings. But Socke was equal to the task with those storms, and you have to be able to keep those Vikings mobile, and you have to be able to keep them alive. Like we said, bring some goddamn SCVs to your ranks.
Yeah,
Even
exactly.
4 or 5
Like,
SCVs.
those storms, those storms cost mana, and if you can back up and you can get your Vikings straight back up to 100% health again before the storm mana can replenish, then that Protoss is going to be in big trouble, and that Protoss is going to lose all of his Colossi and all of his carriers.
Yeah, if he were just a bit more effective at maintaining the survivability of the Vikings, he would have taken out more carriers, he would have taken out more Colossi, and maybe then his ground units would have been had the ability to push. I still think that a few Marauders in the mix of his ground units would have done him a great service, maybe at the midway point of the game. I think once Socke had found this perfect unit mix near the end of the game, the Marauders would have been less viable. But I think throughout the game, the Marauders would have soaked up a hell of a lot more, and with the slowing ability and everything like that, would have made him a lot more predatory in the little skirmishes here and there. But I think this is a tremendous game for both players, and Socke just showing a level of class that was needed to come out victorious in this game, and just devastating stuff from Protoss. Very scary that they can accumulate such a devastating unit mix, But you're going to have to figure out something for the Terrans out there, for the Zerg, to combat something so scary like that. And we hope you enjoyed the game. We certainly enjoyed the game. This game was getting tons and tons of buzz out there, so we decided to do it 45, almost 46-minute game. But exciting from beginning to end, and I love to see that in long games. And so on behalf of myself, Jadius, Bayes, and the Wood League, we thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see you folks next time.